you have to be careful not to mix your boundaries with barriers when you're in a relationship. And this is not just for like a spousal relationship. This is for any relationship in your life. Be careful not to mix your boundaries with barriers. So what does that mean exactly? So the thing about a boundary is, it's like, you know how construction, when they put up those orange cones, a boundary tells you to go around this section, but eventually a boundary can be removed when the job is done, when the job is finished. So in your life, if you put up boundaries, then likely you're putting up boundaries because something happened. But if you put up a barrier instead of a boundary, then you don't have that free will movement where you can move this out of the way eventually and forgive and forget. You end up with a barrier. What the difference between that boundary and a barrier? If you think about the barriers that they put on the side of the road, if you rode over a cone, your car would be fine. If you rode over a barrier, your car would be wrecked. So y'all, like, you really have to be careful with those barriers, because you can put a barrier in place where there should have been a boundary, and you end up ruining an entire relationship. You end up just putting a halt on something that you may have actually wanted to be around, or something that you may have actually wanted in your life, and you put this barrier there. So now anytime this person comes, they're hitting that wall. And I don't know about y'all, but I ain't hitting too many walls willingly. Like, no, why would I do that? Like, I'm not a crash test dummy. Are you? Like, no. So no, you don't want to run into a barrier. So you really got to be careful not to put a barrier where a boundary belongs, and not to put a boundary where a barrier belongs, because there are definitely relationships in your life that require barriers as well. So be mindful of what you're choosing to put in place for yourself, and what you're choosing to put in place for other people, because people are only going to try to get around a barrier for so long. If you go in so many directions and that barrier is still there, I know y'all been in construction before. You can ride for a mile long and the barrier still be there. There's nothing you can do about it. So just be careful, y'all, not to put a boundary where a barrier goes, and not to put a barrier where a boundary goes.